That's right. Evan and Tiki on the Fan. There is a lot to discuss today. We will explain why the New York Giants' chances of trading for and drafting Cam Ward actually grew over the last 24 hours. Brandon Nimmo declares war on the New York Yankees. And what did we initially think of the idea of Austin Wells leading off, knowing that we know Austin Wells will be leading off? So we got a lot to get to. We'll talk to you throughout the day at 888-808-1019. Let me just get this off my chest. We don't have to talk about it. I just want it out there in the ethers. The New York Islanders got screwed last night, okay? We all know it. That's what happened. They got hosed out of a point. The officials suck. Toronto sucks. The Islanders got screwed. Now let's move on. Yankee fans, I think Tiki and I are here to help you. Because I have noticed something over the last few days and last few weeks. I've noticed it from Sean Morash. I've noticed it from the ticket resale market for Yankees opening day. I've noticed it from traversing social media. The New York Yankee fan is down. The New York Yankee fan doesn't have a lot of confidence. The New York Yankee fan is almost bemoaning the start of this season. And I am here to tell you, and I think Tiki's with me on this. Let's discuss. I think the Yankees are going to win the American League East. And despite all of these negatives that have crept up over the last few months, we are here to diffuse any idea that somehow this is going to be a lost season for the New York Yankees. I do not buy it, Tiki Barber.
No, it is not going to be a lost season because the Yankees, that doesn't happen. It happened one time 2 years ago. It doesn't happen regularly, so don't expect that. But I do think, and we've talked about this a couple of times before, Evan, the American League is very mediocre to slightly above average. That feels like almost every one of the top teams in the divisions in the American League. And the Yankees are one of those. And look, the Yankees have the MVP and Judge, and they have a pretty good rotation. They got some young players that you're counting on. But when you look at every team, and especially the Yankees for us right now in New York City, there is just something that gives you angst. And it's not like you're worried about injuries, even though injuries have already taken their toll. It's you just don't know. You don't know whether these guys you're gonna count on, Cabrera or Dominguez or Clark Schmidt, whoever it may be, you don't know if they're going to perform. I think last season it felt like, man, I know Garrett Cole is going to be good. Even though he was hurt at the beginning of the season, he came back and he was good. I know Judge is going to be good. I know that Soto is going to be good. I know that Volpe's going to do his part. I know that Giancarlo Stanton, he's going to be out for a couple of weeks, but he's going to come back and he's going to do his part. You're just missing so many pieces. You know they're going to be good, but you don't think they're going to be great. That's what makes this the beginning of this season feel trepidatious.
But here's the best part. In March and April and May, you don't need to be great. Okay? You don't need to be great. Here's when you need to be great. You need to be good enough to qualify for the postseason, which I strongly believe the New York Yankees will. And then, you need to be great in October. I can promise you that this roster is going to look different by the time we get to October. So really, this is about getting off to a decent start to good start and making the postseason.
Yeah, but nobody wants to hear that.
Well, that's the reality. They may not want to hear it. I'm going to tell you anyway.
You know how fans are. Fans want it to be easy.
But it's not going to be easy.
They want the path to be grooved. You're going to get there seamlessly. Once we get to the postseason, that's when we'll kick it in, and that's when we'll turn it up, and that's when we'll get back to the World Series, and that's when we'll win. But it's honestly never like that, even for the good teams.
Right.
You look at the Dodgers last year. I mean, it felt easy to them. But look what they navigated once the postseason started.
They dealt with a lot of injuries.
Ton of injuries.
Yeah.
The Padres gave them all they could handle, and then they got to the World Series, and while it feels like they gentlemanly swept the Yankees, all those games were games.
Well, that's why it's not going to be easy. I'm not sitting here on March 25th telling you the Yankees are going to run away with the American League East, but I can argue with any Yankee fan who wants to be negative on this Tuesday on why you're equipped to win this division despite all the negatives that are in your way. And let me start off with the loss of Juan Soto. Let's just address it right away. It sucks that the Yankees lost a bat like that. But here's the way I view the loss of Juan Soto and the replacement of Anthony Rizzo. The Yankees lost Juan Soto. They lost their first baseman, whoever the hell you want to call their first baseman from last year, because Anthony Rizzo played half the year. But whoever played first base did not produce. They brought in a first baseman in Paul Goldschmidt, who is coming off a down year, I admit that, and they brought in Cody Bellinger. In my humble opinion, those two guys are essentially your offensive replacements for Juan Soto and Anthony Rizzo. And when you frame it as replacing Juan Soto, it's clearly impossible. I don't think anybody is going to hit 41 home runs and have a 989 OPS and get on base the way Juan Soto did. But let me make it a little bit less crazy for you, less daunting for you. If you take the Yankee production at first base last year, which I'll give you the numbers, it's going to make you sick or maybe make you happy because you know what you're going to get this year will be better than this. They got a combined batting average at first base of 206. They got a combined OPS at first base of 595. They got 17 home runs the entire season out of the first base position. Now, we know what right field produced. We know what Juan Soto produced, 41 home runs at 990 OPS. But if you combine those two things and you look at about a 780 OPS and 58 home runs at 190 RBIs, I ask you guys, you don't think Cody Bellinger and Paul Goldschmidt can match those numbers?
Yeah.
The answer is yes. If you frame it as just Juan Soto, it will depress you. If you frame it as, we're not just replacing Juan Soto, which sucks, but we're actually going to put a real human being that can play baseball at first base, I'd argue the Yankees got better. And remember, the Yankees scored enough runs last year. They scored 5 runs per game. If they do that again, they're making the playoffs. If they do that again, they're winning the American League East. So let's start right there, because the Soto thing is obviously huge. It stinks you lost him.
Yep.
Cody isn't as good. Goldie isn't as good. But you can bet your ass they're better than the corpses you played at first base last year. So the Yankee offense, when you look at right field and first base, actually got better. Does that make you feel better, Sean, like a little bit?
No, I think you're cherry picking a little bit.
Well, I'm cherry picking.
I'm going to put it in this blanket statement. And again, I've gotten more optimistic in the last 2 weeks than where I felt like they were left for dead. But again, I present you what made this Yankee team special when we last saw them. Those 3 best hitters at the time are no longer here. It's not just Soto. Stanton, do we have any idea if he's going to play this year? And like him or hate him, I was more in the defense of him, but I understand Glaber got red hot in that leadoff role, and they didn't replace. They still barely have a leadoff hitter, which we'll get to later. All 3 of those bats missing from a team. When we last saw this team with their 3 best bats, it's hard for fans to wrap their head around.
Yeah, but how can you not like Austin Wells in the leadoff spot? I know it's very non-traditional. Catchers do not lead off in Major League Baseball. You just don't see it. And they don't always play every day. So then you're going to create some void that someone's going to have to fill, Volpe or Jazz or whoever. Probably actually Goldschmidt is what Aaron Boone said. But I'm not nervous about the hitters. I'm nervous more about everyone being excellent all the time. And that's what the Yankees had last year with Juan Soto and Aaron Judge and even some of these other guys as well, especially Stanton once he got healthy. They don't have that right now.
Well, but wait a second. Here's where I disagree. If you look at last year, and again, the Yankees scored enough runs to make the playoffs last year, and if they replicate that this year, that's a victory, right? They scored as many runs as anybody in baseball last year.
Yes.
They scored 5 runs per game. Let's be honest on how they got there. They got there with 2 players. They got there with Aaron Judge and Juan Soto.
Correct.
The rest of the lineup left a lot to be desired. I'm arguing to you the rest of the lineup got better. Paul Goldschmidt, by accident, even if you're not as optimistic as I am about a bounce-back season, by accident produces more than what they got out of first base last year. You all are depressed about third base. Let's be honest. You didn't get any production out of third base last year either till Jazz Chisum came. Yeah. Oswaldo Cabrera started 109 games out of 650 OPS. The hope is, as Oswaldo gets older and Oswald Peraza and maybe an acquisition we don't see coming, the production out of third base is going to be better. Let's get to left field. I know the defense concerns people, but also by accident. Jason Dominguez should produce more than Alex Verdugo.
Might be the key to the whole season.
It may be. Number 3, let's get to shortstop. Maybe Anthony Volpe is what he is. And if that's the case, all right, it's a wash. He does the same thing. Or at 24 years old, in year 3, he takes a step. The rest of the Yankee lineup, outside of losing Soto, which is a major blow, got better. Where am I wrong? Where are we wrong on that?
It just still sounds like a lot of ifs. Here's the other thing, Evan.
Every team has ifs.
I understand the numbers.
You think the Orioles have ifs?
And
You think Jackson Holiday doesn't have a big fat if all over his face right now?
But
that was my big point about the rest of the American League. Everybody's in the same spot.
Yeah.
The Yankees just are a little bit better. You ask me what I think they are? They're in a slightly above average, maybe an above average team that needs a lot of these young players to really step up and become not superstars, but stars. And if they don't, they're just going to be with them in the mix with everybody else.
Yeah. It also feels like, and I don't want to be negative about him because I got to see him every day here to love him. You're putting a lot of faith in stock that Paul Goldschmidt is going to continue to produce just because he's, Anthony Rizzo. It's a guy on a one-year deal at the end of his career here.
Sean, Paul Goldschmidt had a terrible year last year, agreed?
Yes.
Horrible year, right?
But it was better than Rizzo. Yes, I understand.
Yeah, that's exactly where I was leading you. It's like you know me by now.
But
if he gave you the production of last year, it's still a major upgrade over the crap you got from Rizzo.
Yeah, okay, if you're looking at first base for first base in a vacuum, no doubt about it. But I'm sorry, what the Yankees are going to count on Paul Goldschmidt, whether he's platooning and hitting leadoff or in cleanup, he's going to have to give you a little more, bro. He's going to be a really important bat for this team, and that's asking a lot at his age, also to stay healthy himself, get through everything. That's a lot of ifs, ifs, ifs. Usually teams built on ifs flop flat on their face.
I'll give you a guy that I don't think is an if. Last year, the New York Yankees made a trade for Jazz Chisum.
Yeah.
You may recall.
Oh, yeah.
He played 46 games. So if you really want to do the math on what that would be over a full season, basically you times it by about 3.5. In the 46 games, he had 11 home runs, drove in 23 runs, and had an 825 OPS and stole 18 bases. Can I do some math for you? If you equate that over a full season, you're talking about a 38 home run, 60 stolen base season. Now, I don't even know if Jazz can do that, obviously, but I always believed if Jazz Chisum came to New York, you can unlock him. In the 46 games he played after the trade, he was unlocked. Mm-hmm. If he continues to produce like that, that far outweighs Gleyber Torres, and that gives you another good stick in the middle of your lineup.
You're not going to sell me on Jazz. That's currently my favorite Yankee, and I'm a Jazz stan. That Jazz and Judge are the only two I fully trust on this team right now.
Not Volpe yet?
Well, look, I said this at the beginning of the year, or the beginning of the year. It feels like it's already been that long of spring training.
Right.
I wanted Volpe to come out, seize the moment in spring training, and absolutely own the leadoff role. It feels like he never really got a chance to do the leadoff spot. He's been ho-hum fine this spring. I don't know. It feels like we're waiting and waiting and waiting, and maybe that Volpe jump is not going to happen.
That's exactly how I feel about the whole team. It's like you're waiting and waiting and waiting. Something big is going to happen, and it doesn't.
In many ways, Volpe kind of feels like the team.
Yeah.
In a weird way.
I disagree with that. Like, you're asking veteran players to replace the production of last year, and if you do it, they score 5 runs a game and they make the playoffs. The Soto thing is like this big flashing light, so it's tough to think of replacing him, but you're replacing Alex Verdugo. I think Dominguez and the Yankees can do that. You're replacing...
No, you hope Dominguez can do that.
I feel decent about that. Even if Dominguez isn't great, I think he replaces Verdugo's numbers.
Evan, think about that.
Verdugo's numbers weren't any good last year.
No,
okay,
right.
So you've hit on Goldschmidt, you've hit on Dominguez, you brought up Volpe, you brought up Wells and leadoff role. You're at the slot machine spinning for these 3-7s. You honestly think every single one of these things is going to come to fruition?
No, but I don't think you're asking for that much. Let me go back to left field because you brought this up, or I brought it up and you countered with, hey, what is Dominguez going to do? I want you to remember what the bar is for left field. Left field last year produced a .233 average with 13 home runs and a .650 OPS. You think Dominguez does that, Teak?
I mean, I hope he does.
It's not asking a lot.
Yeah, no, you're right. It's not.
That's my point. Like, you're not asking Dominguez to be a superstar. You're saying just to replicate last year, right? Because that's the goal. If they score 5 runs a game, that'll be good enough. Just replicate the totality of offensive numbers the Yankees put up last year, and they're going to make the playoffs. Well, the production out of left field was that garbage I just repeated.
Yeah, and
Jason Dominguez does that by accident.
You hope he does that by accident.
He better. I'm not asking him to be a star. 230? 650 OPS? What are we talking about here?
There's just not a ton of major league experience. The 1 year, yeah, he did. What he did in 2023, when he was only here for, 8 games. That would say, yes, he's better than Verdugo was in left field. But that was 8 games. It's a grind. It's
I agree.
154 more.
We don't know what Dominguez is. I'm merely placing the bet. Sean, you said you're putting a lot of chips out there.
Yeah.
I'm betting that Dominguez produces better than 233 and a 650 OPS. And if you guys want to bet against me and Dominguez on that, I will gladly take that bet. You don't think he's producing a 650 OPS?
I mean,
shake my hand.
All I know is that last year he hit 180.
He played 18 games.
I agree.
Come on.
But you also can't look at 2023 and say, well, he's ready for it.
I'm merely saying...
you just don't know.
I'm saying he's going to produce more than the garbage you got out of left field. I'm saying that Goldie's going to produce more than the garbage you got out of first base. I'm saying Jazz Chisum will clearly produce more than what you got out of third base, or if you want to pick Gleyber Torres, the production you got out of Gleyber Torres. The Yankee offense should be better than maybe we're giving them credit for. And then let's get to the pitching. The American League East, that great division that they're in.
By the way, conveniently skipped DH with Stanton, too.
Well, what did Stanton do last year? You want to go through
regular
that?
season?
Yeah.
Not a ton.
Okay.
But in the postseason, we knew what we were waiting for.
We're not talking about the playoffs, though.
I understand that, but we knew what we were waiting for, and you just come to accept what Giancarlo Stanton's going to be in the regular season.
So why are we assuming he won't be in the playoffs this year? That's in 6 months.
Okay, but when's he picking up a bat again?
But I'm arguing
when's he going under the knife again? I mean, I have no idea what the prognosis is for Giancarlo Stanton.
I agree. That's why I'm not relying on him, but I'm talking about the regular season because that's the ultimate goal. Just make the playoffs, win the division, get to the postseason. The production out of DH last year, they got a lot of home runs out of Giancarlo. They also didn't get a lot of other great numbers out of him. So I don't think replacing that is that daunting either. I have to be honest with you.
So just to be clear,
so who's it going to be?
Overall at DH?
Yes.
It's a great question. I think Ben Rice is going to get an opportunity to do it. I think Trent Grisham, not DHing, but replacing those numbers by, let's say, playing center field and kind of moving your defense around, will be able to do that. I think Goldie's going to DH a lot.
You know what it sounds like as you're going through all of this?
Good.
A lot of managing.
Okay.
A lot
of
managing.
And you don't trust Booney?
I'm just saying, it's a lot of managing.
Okay. What's wrong with that?
Nothing.
I mean, it's not like the Yankees don't win.
I'm not declaring or proclaiming anything. I'm just saying it's a lot of managing.
It is.
I do think, Evan, this is where I think the Yankee fan listening has to understand where you're coming from because maybe I'm misinterpreting too.
Also, I'm wearing a Met shirt, so that's going to bother people that I'm calming you all down, giving you back massages while wearing my beautiful Met golf shirt.
I think the majority of Yankee negativity and some of the things that Tiki and I have hit on centers around, fair or unfairly, the end goal. This is a team that just went to the World Series and lost.
Yeah.
And when we're talking about October and everything, I understand that you can't count on October and March and April, but a lot of the negativity is just about getting back to the World Series. Now, if you're just painting the picture, look what you're going to replace, and this team could fight and make the playoffs, I think unanimously everybody can come together and go, okay, if these things hit, that.
100%.
But the Yankee negativity comes with, are they going to be good enough to get through the American League,
The team
not just
doesn't
make the
feel
playoffs?
better on paper than it was a year ago.
It doesn't have...
That went to the World Series. And to Sean's point, when you look at the rest of the American League, every team is in the exact same spot.
I'm with you.
And I think the Yankee fan does not want to just be everybody. Does not want to be in the mean. They want to be above the mean.
If your concern as a Met fan or a Yankee fan on March 25th is, I don't think this roster is good enough to get to a best of 5 or a best of 7, your brain thinking on this is completely flawed because it's just not the right way to look at it. I think the way you have to look at a baseball season as it's about to begin is, can you make the playoffs?
Yes.
If the answer is yes,
is yes.
Then you got a chance to win a championship. Then you have a chance to win a championship.
Okay.
And that's really all that matters.
By the
because
way, fantastic, but you're not going in expecting that with the way this roster is right now. Because you just don't know what you're getting from Jason Dominguez.
And past
you don't know
Yankee,
exactly. You don't know what you're getting from Austin Wells leading off. You don't know where Volpe. Is he evolving, becoming more of a star? We don't know if Aaron Judge is going to stay healthy. We don't know if Paul Goldschmidt at 37 years old is going to be that plus replacement at first base that you keep talking about. You just don't know. Right? Last year, you felt like you knew what you were getting. You knew what you were getting from Garrett Cole. You knew what you were getting from Juan Soto. You knew what you were getting from Aaron Judge. Right? You knew what you were getting from Giancarlo Stanton when he was healthy. You don't have that now.
I kind of disagree that a lot of those things that we didn't know now, we didn't know last year. Like, did we know what we were getting out of Anthony Rizzo? Did we know what we were getting out of third base? Did we know what we were getting out of catcher with Austin Wells eventually taking the job?
No.
Did we know what we were getting from even Alex Verdugo, who was a nice little acquisition? So I'd actually disagree that the questions were almost as big last year. And as far as Garrett Cole's concerned, you're right. It sucks he's not there.
Yeah, but last year we know it happened.
So what does that mean? I'm talking about how we felt going into the season.
And we also entered with the Robin to Batman by having Juan Soto. Every Yankee season, if you're a Yankee fan, begins with this question on opening day eve. When you look at the roster, can you see this team in a World Series? And it's not.
Yes.
And it's separate from the World Series or bust.
Sure,
you are
the
now
answer is
presenting
yes.
it as, look at all these ifs. If you make the playoffs, you have a chance. That is much different than simply a yes or no.
Sean?
And I think for the majority of people, man, they're going to take a lot. I don't think that this team is good enough to make a World Series.
First of all, the Yankees are going to make the playoffs. I didn't give you an if. I feel pretty strongly about that. I said that to you last year they were going to win the division. Turned out to be right. I'm going to double down and say they're going to do that again. Now, I don't think it's going to be easy. I don't think they're going to run away with it. I don't think I'm going to prance my way to October and say, see, I told you guys that was easy. I think it's going to be a fight. I think it's going to be a war. And I don't think it's just going to be with one other team. I think the Orioles are going to be right there. I'll take my slings and arrows for saying this. I think the Blue Jays are going to be right there. I think they're a lot better than people think. I think the Red Sox will be right there. But ultimately, I think the Yankees are equipped, despite all of these injuries, to be the team that's left standing winning the American League East. And once you get to the playoffs, can I see them getting to a World Series? Can I see them getting to a World Series? Yeah. I'll fight anybody on that. And I'm not a Yankee fan. I'm not trying to blow smoke up your ass. I'm calling it like it is. They're that good. Who's the most reliable pitcher right now in the American League East? You have to pick one.
Garrett
I trust
Crochet.
that guy. Shut up. You can't believe that.
I would. If you're
I apologize for saying shut up. I shouldn't have said that. I'm working on my language.
I say shut up to you all the time.
Garrett Crochet.
I would take Garrett Crochet over Max Fried in a heartbeat right
He's
now.
had one season as a starter, and they took him out after 2 or 3 innings the final 2 months of the year. Spare me that. It's not Garrett Crochet. You're projecting that you think he's going to be great. He's not the most reliable. That is so disrespectful to what Max Fried's accomplished in his career that you're going to take that guy who's never pitched a full season, a real full season, and say, I trust him more? BS.
Evan,
try again.
If you were a Met fan today and you were said you could trade peanuts and you could have either Max Fried or Garrett Crochet, you're taking Max Fried?
That's not the question.
No, that's the question I'm presenting you because that's exactly what I'm saying. That is who I would rather have right now in the AL East.
I said, who's the most reliable starter in the American League?
Well, that's a funny
East?
way to couch it, isn't it?
It's not. He's accomplished something, Max Fried. Who is it? Is it Jose Barrios? Maybe it's him.
Okay.
Is it Tanner Houck? Maybe it's him. Is it Shane McClanahan? Oh, wait, he's hurt again.
Just to be clear,
is it him?
When it comes to the Yankee lineup, you want to present us with Dominguez and things of what you think they're about to become. But when I throw about the best pitcher in the American League East, we're not allowed to project that what we think Garrett Crochet is about to become is what you'd rather have than Max Fried.
Well, if I frame the question, who do you think will turn out to be the best pitcher?
Okay, exactly. Gotcha.
It's going to be your cast-off, Max Scherzer.
My point is Max Fried is very reliable. Despite having stints on the injured list, like if you go through the American League East, Lukey's all over fantasy. Right now, look at the American League East. Toronto, Boston, Baltimore, Yankees, Tampa. Give me like the starting pitchers you look at and say, oh, yeah, I trust him. Not high upside, just I trust that guy. I know he's going to give me 28 starts. I know he's going to be effective. Who would you trust the most of any starting pitcher in the American League East?
That would be one Mr. Maxwell Jacob Fried.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes.
And he's not saying that because he's my puppet. Tommy will disagree with me at the first opportunity.
No, I mean, Fried's got the goods. He's not as good as Clay Holmes, but he's got the goods. Clay Holmes is in the NL East. If it had asked me baseball, I would have said Holmes, but AL East, Crochet is still... He pitched 3 innings a game last year for the White Sox.
They don't understand that.
And who's the other guy you said? Hawk Tua? Who was the other guy? I never even heard of that guy.
No, Garrett Crochet, if he was here, like if the Yankees or Mets got him, here's what we would say. Here's what Tiki would have said, because you would have done a deep dive. You would have said, listen, he's got great stuff, but the guy hasn't done anything yet. They took him out after 3 innings in the middle of August.
Right.
I mean, how can I trust that this guy's going to be any good? But we'll get to your calls next. Obviously, you can hear some of the negativity that some Yankee fans have. I'm not trying to blow smoke. I'm not trying to be nice. I'm not trying to be pro-Yankees. I'm calling it like it is. I think the New York Yankees are winning the American League East despite all the questions and despite all the flaws that you think they have. 888-808-1019.